YouTube, what's going on? Again, if you've been watching my video, the agenda doesn't change. It's really me just thanking you for watching my videos, subscribing, sharing the video, like the video. So it's no different in this video. So as you know, this is the last part. This is part 3 of a 3-part series video that I was asked to do. So if you haven't seen part 1, which is the start of how to start the process of rebuilding your credit, I give you everything you need to know there. And in part 2, I kind of go over the determinant factor. Sorry, I can't get my word out. The determinant factors of the things, the alerts or the collections that's playing a major role in your credit score tanking. Right, so I give you a large variety, multiple variety of different scenarios, different things that could be in your credit score. And I actually have a credit report right here in my hand. That was a great example because that particular individual, which I can't discuss this information because it's personal, but they had quite a few things in the credit report that can actually help you. And I'm sure you will fall under one of those categories. If that is indeed the case, this video is perfect for you, but you need to see the first 2, so go back and watch the first 2, part 1 and part 2, and this is part 3, which is the solution to all the determinant factor in part 2. So if you haven't seen part 1, you haven't seen part 2, again, this may not make sense to you. All right, so I'm gonna go into great detail in exactly what you need to do to get those determinant factor off your credit report so you can live a healthy credit. So why don't we talk about it? All right, so again, as I said before in video 1, video 2, part 1, part 2, everyone is a case by case. Okay, what's hurting your credit score may not be the same thing that's hurting me or someone else. So keep that in mind. Those are just suggestions, and I'm hoping, and most likely, you may fall under one of those categories. Okay, so we talked about late payment, right? So in terms of late payment, this is not a credit bureau issue, at least not yet, right? When you talk about late payment, is you failing to pay by the closing date or whatever agreement that you have with the lender or whoever you in business with, right? This is not a credit bureau issue at the moment, right? What you need to do at this point to try to fix this problem is to actually reach out to the actual creditor, the original creditor, right? Reach out to them. And explain your situation to them and let them know whether you had hardship, whether it's the pandemic, to why you was not able to make your payment, and ask them to remove that payment because it is hurting your credit score. It is hurting what you try to accomplish in the future because your credit score is tanking because of that late payment. Now, most of the time, they will get it off for you if you have a good enough reason, right? And sometimes it's a mistake, right? If you could prove with your bank account or your credit card statement that you actually made that payment, it's a mistake on their end, that's even better. But the person you need to reach out to is the creditor, not the credit bureau, right? Reach out to them. And most of the time, and 99% of the time, you will reach out to the customer service because that's the number that you are going to have. And they may be able to help you. And sometimes they may not be able to help you because of the authorization level. Right? And if that is indeed the case, then you need to reach out to the executive department of that particular company, right? Reach out to them and try to speak with them. Most likely it's going to be an email, and you may be able to find a phone number, Google a phone number and call them. And if you're not successful there, then you need to write a goodwill letter to them, right? To the executive office, possibly the vice president. The higher up you could reach, the better it is for you. So that's how you would deal with late payment. It's not the credit bureau, it's an actual credit, the creditor that you're dealing with, you need to reach out to, whether the customer service, sometimes they'll get it done for you. If not, then you need to keep going and do not stop until you get those things removed. Okay, so that's for late payment. In terms of collection, there are various different collections, right? And we talked about it in video 2, right? So in terms of collection, now you are getting into the credit bureau aspect of things, right? So now you need to reach out to the credit bureau. So you will have to dispute that information, but first you would need to look on credit in your credit report, which I've told you in part 1 of this series how to do that. So you would need to look in your credit report and you will see the collections, and you will need to check the open dates, the last day of activity, if they show a due balance, because it should not be showing, the account should not be showing a due balance if it's been reported as a collection. That's a clear violation. You need to check all of those things. And you need to reach out to the credit bureaus, all 3 of them. If that particular account is reporting to all 3 bureaus, then you need to reach out to all 3 bureaus, writing a dispute letter to them and asking them to verify that information, right? Because you want to know if that information is what they show in your credit report, it is indeed correct based on what your record is saying. So you would have to send a dispute letter to them. Again, if you don't know how to do that, if you don't know what needs to go in a dispute letter, like I said, go onto my channel, right on the upper right hand corner, right underneath where the button that says subscribe, you will see a download there. I put multiple letters in that particular document. It's a 17-page document that I've took my time and wrote for you guys. Go and download that document. It will tell you exactly how to format that particular dispute letter to the credit bureaus. Okay, that way you're not making any mistake and wasting your time. And keep in mind, the credit bureaus have 30 to 45 days to respond to any inquiry you sent them. So once you send it, if you don't hear something back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that's totally normal. They have 30 to 45 days to respond back to you. After that, if you don't hear from them, then you need to reply. You need to send them another, I guess, a round two letter to them and advising, in particular to the first letter that you send them, you didn't hear back from them. Okay, so that's how you would deal with collection. Again, there's different type of collections. I'm just giving you the broad understanding of how to deal with them. So when it comes to collection, you have to dispute with the credit bureau based on the information that you see in your credit report, and disputing them. Okay, so medical bills. All right, so medical bills is a little tricky. There's various ways that you can deal with medical bills. Just knowing that a quick tip on medical bill, if you're able to make a payment before they actually report you to an agency or to the credit bureau, then by law, this is law, they cannot report you to the credit bureau. Whether you owe them $1 million or $500,000 or $20, it doesn't matter. As long as they take one payment from you and it has to be more than $5, they cannot report that amount to the credit bureau. So you can kind of save yourself there, right? But if they have already indeed report you to the credit bureau, and what you need to do at this point, if you look at your credit report, it will give you the contact of the credit agency that reported you to the credit bureau. But in parentheses, it will also tell you the original, whether it's an emergency room that you went to or a doctor's office, it will tell you the name of the original creditor that reported you to the third party that reports you to the credit bureau. You need to call them, not the actual collection agency, right? You don't want to try to pay them. You want to try to pay the original person, which is the hospital, the emergency, or the doctor's office that you went to. Try to reach out to them. You could Google the information once you have the name, Google the information and try to get a phone number for them and try to see if they could take a payment. If they take a payment, you are in it to win it, because now at that point, they have to pull it from your credit report. By law, they have to do that. So that's the route you need to go in terms of medical bills. Trying to pay the original creditor, not the collection agency that actually sends you to the credit bureau. Okay, so if you could pay the original creditor, you're in it to win it, because they're gonna have to pull it out of your credit report, even though if you still owe them $100,000. But the fact that they took a payment from you, then they have to pull it out of your credit report. Okay. Next is the overusage. of your credit limit, which is fall under the utilization criteria, which is the category, the second highest category of the 5 categories. Overusage is pretty much on the revolving side of the spectrum. It means that if you have, let's just say you have a $5,000 credit limit, you want to stay, it's just, you can't max it out. Once you max it out, then it's going to tank your credit score. And really, once you go over 30%, it's not good. It tells the wrong story, as if you need your credit card to live off of versus not just using it because you want to. So you want to stay under that 30%. But the best way to get the maximum points on that particular category, because there are 165 points from that category that you can actually get. The best way to get the most each month is to stay under 7%, not 30, 7%. 30% just tell the story. You borderline where you don't need to use it, but you're using it because you need to use it as well. But to stay at under 7%, that's the most, or that's the best best range or percentage of utilization you want to do, because they give you the maximum points if you can stay under 7% of utilization. All right. So again, bankruptcies, based on bankruptcy, it depends on if you file a Chapter 13, which is 7 years, extend your record for 7 years. But if it's a Chapter 7, more so federal, that's staying your record for 10 years. This is no different than a collection. You would approach it the same way. The only difference is that it's a public record. You would need to go into Pacer to open up an account there to see the entire information, see what court they filed it into, if they did file this bankruptcy properly. If there's any mistake, then you could definitely get it removed. But after that, then you would need to go to LexisNexis, which is another form of public record. So if you have a judgment, you have a default judgment, you have anything that's dealing with anybody suing you, that's where you would go. Pacer and LexisNexis, create accounts with these guys. That way you can actually get the full detail and compare it to the records that you got from the court. Okay, and then also the one that's in your credit report as well, because it will show a bankruptcy and credit report. So you want to compare all this information with Pacer and LexisNexis, okay, for a bankruptcy. Again, for repossession of a vehicle, you want to get that information. If they repossess your vehicle or you turn it in, it impacts you the same way. Okay, so you need to get that information after they auction the car. You need to get them to send you the information of how much they sold it for, if there's any balance, and so on and so forth, so you can compare with your credit report and also with your Secretary of State when you file that complaint there, right? So a charge-off is pretty much the same thing with as a collection. So all it is that says that the creditor you was dealing with, you had contract with, has written off the debt because you failed to pay it after a certain period of time. So you would approach that the same way you would approach a collection account, which I just explained to you. The same exact way you would approach that. The only difference is that with a charge-off, because it's been charged off, written off, after 3 years, it doesn't have much of an impact on your credit report versus a collection that stayed there for 7 years. All right. So student loans, I get a lot of requests in regards to student loans. I'm kind of moving a little along because the video is already at 14 minutes. I want to keep it short, but I also want to give you as much information that you need in order for you to have no problem getting these things off your record and what to do when you see it on your credit report, right? So student loans, I've seen a lot of folks who wants to remove student loan as it is a bad thing, as long as it's in good standard. Remember, one of the category is that how long have you have credit? That's a category. That's like 15% of your credit score, right? And you could earn 82 points on that particular category. So how long have you have credit? It's a thing. There's a minimum of 9 years. The algorithm wants you to actually have credit history. Anything less than that, they actually kind of shave points off your credit score. So 9 years is good. So student loans, I could imagine you probably had them since you left college at 21, 22, 23. So maybe if you're 30, 35, you have good credit history. There's no need to try to remove student loans. If they are in good standard, you need to try to keep them and continue because it's helping your credit score. All right. So last thing, not least, is really things that doesn't belong in your credit score, incorrect information, whether somebody got a hold of your credit or your personal information and open up an account under your name. You need to make sure those things are not yours. If they're not yours, you need to make sure they're off your credit. The way you're going to know that is to make sure on the first video of part 1, I talked about the personal information, make sure those things are correct, and read the credit report thoroughly to make sure that anything that doesn't belong to you, you take action accordingly. It will take a simple letter to the credit bureau advising them this is not mine, it is fraud, and then from there they could get it removed as long as you can show proof that it's not yours. So with that being said, those are all the different scenarios. This is the solution to all the determined factor from part 2 of the series. If you have any question, any concern, please reach out, leave me a comment, good or bad, like the video so other people can find it. Please consider subscribing. As you know, it will help the channel greatly. Again, if you need to start and understand how credit work, if you go into my channel, on the upper right hand corner, you will see a download button. Go ahead and download you the 17-page document that I have written. It is 100% free. It has a lot of good stuff in there. It has the formats of letters that you need to dispute letter with the credit bureau. It kind of explains the 5 categories. It has different cards that you can use to help build your credit. So again, I appreciate you. I thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Until the next video. That kind of concluded.